Hi everyone and welcome to podcast number 10 of Joshua.com. I have a special guest today and his name is Benny Lewis. And for those of you that don't know, Benny has been running a blog for a little over a year now. The blog's name is fluentin3months.com. And he's something of a polyglot. But for those of you who don't know what a polyglot is, then through the help of Wikipedia I was able to figure this one out. But it's basically someone who's multilingual and has mastered several different languages and uses them to communicate with other people. And so, given that the guest himself will be able to give a slightly better introduction and backstory, I'd like to welcome in Benny. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Yeah, polyglot is not a very common word in English, but most people would know about the equivalent polyglot in Spanish, French, and all these kind of languages. I just say multilingual. It's just a way to say a multilingual person.
Okay. But it's a great way as well to get some stick because you had me searching on the internet for quite some time just trying to figure that one out. Are you able to give the listeners right now just a brief summary of what your story is, where you've come from as far as how you got into learning languages and then the amazing journey that's happened since you started doing so?
Yeah, sure. So I studied electronic engineering and I graduated a little young when I was still 20. And I went to Spain to do an internship, and I had an amazing time, but I did what typical expats do in pretty much all of the world in any country, is they hang out with other expats or with locals who speak just English, and you create this bubble protecting you from the local language, and you fill up with excuses. Like my excuses were I was crap at languages at school, I'm not good at remembering words, all these kind of things. So many excuses. So for 6 months, I did not learn Spanish. So something I like to remind people if they just think I'm naturally talented is I did poorly in languages in school, and I spent 6 months in a Spanish-speaking country without learning any Spanish. And I kind of realized one day that this is a pretty poor situation to be in because I was living in the country. And there were so many people I was pretty much ignoring that because the majority of Spaniards can't speak any English. So I really dedicated myself to learning the language. I made a tough decision to avoid speaking English entirely for an entire month. It was a crazy decision. It lost me a few friends because a lot of people were not patient with me. But I stuck to it, and after a month, I was not speaking fluent Spanish, but I had realized that I could communicate in the language. I could definitely make new friends, and I could talk about several different things, even if I was still making mistakes. This is a problem a lot of people have when they're learning a language, is they've got this perfectionist mentality that you can't start speaking until you know all the grammar inside and out, and you know hundreds of thousands of words of vocabulary to make sure you're covered for every possible scenario. And that's not how it works. You just have to throw yourself in and, if you know 10 words, use those 10 words. If your grammar is messed up, who cares? I couldn't say anything in the past, so I'd be like, yesterday I eat, and that's fine, the equivalent in Spanish. So I had learned that, and then just by pure practice and like this, I don't have any really ridiculously crazy suggestions for people. Just encouraging them to actually speak the language with human beings. So I continued with that. I went to other European countries and I learned languages that are in the same language family as Spanish. So that was pretty cool. After that, I got into some other ones. I got back to Ireland to learn Gaelic. I've been to Germany to learn German. I learned Hungarian. And I learned a couple of others as well that I decided not to maintain, like Czech and Thai. And right now I'm learning Tagalog in the Philippines. So just a year and a half ago, I started my blog Fluent in 3 months. I didn't really intend to make a living out of it. I was translating at the time, translating engineering documents, so I was using my degree. And it turned out the blog got pretty popular. A lot of people were enjoying my tips. I mean, as I said, it was nothing revolutionary, but I was framing it in a way that people could understand that, I was saying, yes, actually speaking does help, and no, you don't have to travel to the country. It's being confident and everything is what makes the difference. So the blog has exploded in popularity, and I ran into some financial debt about this time last year. Or I'd already had the debt for a while, but it was coming up to its limit, my credit card limit, so I needed to find a different solution to making money. And I was hanging out with some bloggers, and they told me that because my blog is popular, I could actually just write an ebook and try to market that. So I summarized all of my best tips for how to speak a language from day one, because it's not really that intuitive. I mean, the idea makes sense, but how you do it when you don't have any words, how you can be confident, and so on. I wrote the whole book to explain exactly the process I go through every time. And amazingly, since the day I released it, it's been so popular, getting such amazing reviews, that I've been living entirely off that one ebook that explains everything I talk about. I've had it translated to over 20 languages, so people can try to read it in the target language. I've interviewed some of the most famous language learners on the internet to include in it. It's been an amazing ride. So I've actually been able to make the website a full-time job and write 2 or 3 times a week about how I learn languages and how I would advise other people to tackle it. And I get about 10 emails a day from random people thanking me for encouraging them and that now they are speaking their language. So, even forgetting about the financial benefits, just getting these emails and knowing that I'm making a difference and helping people learn the language is really motivating me to keep this up, So it has definitely been an amazing adventure.
And that's so incredible too. You touched on a number of points that will resonate with not only those that are possibly in a bilingual environment or country, but as well as those that are looking to turn their passion into profits. And the great thing is you were mentioning how people can take some counterintuitive steps to learn a language. So like you say, you're a proponent of only learning a language as a necessity, and you rely heavily on just immersing yourself and getting that one-to-one conversational skill down in the native tongue of whichever country you might be staying in. But what I think is awesome as well is how you talked about creating a product that's around your passion, and because you already had the blog, you're able to monetize that. And so I actually discovered you when I was checking out Vic's website, and Vic is from there'smoneyeverywhere.com, and it was an off chance thing because we were setting up an interview time. I hit his page and then bam, you're right there. And I just want to find out, how has networking with other bloggers helped you in building up your blog and then being able to live the life you live at the moment?
Yeah, networking has been absolutely essential because to be honest, my blog was already growing without much networking because the story is pretty unique. I'm not in a saturated niche, so I'm just referred to as, someone that would know of me is mentions to a friend they want to learn a language, then they would refer me. And I got Facebook sharing buttons that are used quite a lot. Several of my posts have been shared hundreds of times, and one of my posts went viral on StumbleUpon and received 150,000 stumbles. So yeah, I've been doing pretty good before I started networking, but the problem was the networking has definitely helped me gain a better reputation because the social networking sites are kind of StumbleUpon and so on that send you great traffic, but for particular things you've written about, and it's not really for building up a reputation. Whereas I'd like to be known as the language guy to go to for advice, kind of thing. So this time last year I was in Thailand, and I was hanging out with some people that you might know. Adam Baker from Man vs. Death, Cody McKibben from Thrilling Heroics, Sean Ogle, even got an evening with Chris Guillebeau, and several other people that are pretty big bloggers, and just hanging out with them, partying on the beach and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they gave me some pretty good advice. Like Chris Guillebeau, for example, gave me an excellent tip after the others had convinced me to write an ebook. And I told him, I need to cover my financial problems. I need to write an ebook. He immediately said, "Don't write an ebook. If your goal is to actually solve your money problems, a PDF file is not going to do that, because you can't really sell a PDF file for any considerable amount of money. Like if you're starting off, $10 is pretty much what you're going to have to aim for. So you'd have to sell quite a lot to make a real dent. He told me to write a multimedia product to make it a guide. That's why it's called the Language Hacking Guide and not the Language Hacking ebook. So it's actually right now over 250 files in the one download. So this really emphasizes that it's not just a PDF file. So the price is higher. There's a lot more value in it, and people realize that. Whereas if it was just a book, then they wouldn't really pay $10 more. And this means I only have to actually sell one book a day, and I'm covering my expenses, which is great. So I don't really have to turn my site into a cheesy way to just funnel people towards buying the book, because it's just happening naturally. I don't have to have these annoying pop-up sign up to my email list things. Those really drive me crazy. I don't have to be constantly pushing people. I just have a little banner in the top right, and I occasionally link to it in a blog post, and that's it. I don't do that much promotion, because people see the thing is the blog in itself is already promoting the product because of the lifestyle I'm living. And I see a lot of other successful bloggers who do sell a lot of ebooks. They do it not because they keep pushing it and saying this is the best solution to your problems, but because they write in their blog about the fact that they're living anywhere or whatever it might be, and they're giving examples and writing interesting content. And then from that, people kind of think, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. And it's the same with the sales page that I've created. You would have noticed the most impressive thing about it, and the reason it's actually been shared 800 times on Facebook is because of the video. So an interesting thing as far as sales pages go is my sales page is going viral. It's getting stumble upon hits. It's getting shared on Twitter. It's getting shared on Facebook, which is not something that happens in sales pages. Sales pages are usually just the purpose is to get you to click buy. They're not actually interesting in themselves. Whereas this is a proof of concept. I've got a video of me speaking 8 languages, which is not something you see every day. So people go to see the video, and because of that, I've got a very low what is it, the term? I don't know so many marketing terms very well, but there's a term they say for the amount, the ratio of people who see the page per people who buy it. I forget what it is.
Okay. So your conversion rate
mine is
very high.
My conversion rate. That's it. Sorry, my conversion rate is actually very low because the page is just naturally viral. People who are just interested in watching the video will share it. But that's okay, because I'm still selling my if I'm selling at least one a day, I'm covering all my expenses. So I've read up a lot about marketing, and I've actually just ignored most of the advice because I don't really see it. It's written. I mean, I'm sure this will piss off a few of your listeners, but all of this marketing stuff is written by Americans, and Americans have a very good way of selling things, but it's also very cheesy and very annoying. So I have to be frank, a lot of the stuff I see is effective, and I could sell 10 times as many books if I rewrote my sales page. I'm sure about that.
Right.
But, I'd be sacrificing my reputation, and I'm trying to work towards something bigger, So as long as I'm covering I can't really complain because I am making what I need to cover my expenses. But I see too many people selling out to all of this marketing buzz and doing all of the different things to push people towards clicking buy. And they keep looking at the stats and saying, oh, because I've changed the color of my button, my sales are up 8% or whatever it is. And when you do it that way, you're just looking at the numbers. That's great for short-term benefits, but you got to think long-term, And a lot of people just realize that I'm doing this passionately. I'm genuine, so I'm not another sales guy just kind of hear about the bottom line to make money. Yeah. And the problem is I see a lot of bloggers online who are going down the wrong route. They're getting all the best tips to make sure that the conversion rate is as high as possible.
Okay.
And you sacrifice a lot in your conversion rate, because conversion rate is all about like psychology, that you're convincing people who are very flittery and very easy to manipulate, and that's not the kind of people I want to get through to, you know. So I think that comes across. People see that I'm not, like, I actually in the sales page I actually give reasons why people should not buy the Language Hacking Guide, and that's important. I tell people, if you want to pass an exam, if you want to be able to read a language perfectly, do not buy my book, because my book is about speaking a language with natives.
Right.
So
right.
I want to be clear about that, because obviously, firstly, that means I have practically no requests for refunds, but it also means that I'm selling to the right people, and I can sleep at night, to be honest, because there's so many things I could do. So many salespeople have looked at my sales page and said, oh, you're not doing this, and look at that there, you should change this. And I can just their answer. I think to myself, if I saw that on a sales page, I would just think cheesy, And it's maybe it's cultural, because it's. I've lived. I don't know if you've ever lived in the States. You do get bombarded so much with advertising, so much so that it just becomes a natural part of your life, and you just presume it's always there. But for those of us not living in the States, it is pretty annoying to get constant advertising and constant pushes and pushes. So I've kind of ignored the advice of a lot of people that I've met. But just from what you were saying, the networking has helped me so much. The people I've met, they have interviewed me, and that's kind of been a direct way for people to see my message. I met a lot of people at Blogworld as well. Blogworld was great, including Leo Babauta, and I got to do a guest post on Zen Habits, the biggest individually run blog, I think it is, in the world. So that was a pretty great opportunity, and it's not because when I met him, I wasn't talking sales pitch, I invited him out for a vegan burger. That's how, just hanging out and getting to know him and seeing that he actually does have a genuine interest in learning French, and I talked to him about that. I didn't talk to him about how great my website is or something. So the thing about networking is it's all about just making new friends. People are very eager to push your things when they know you personally. And it's the same for me. I push other people's things because I've hung out with them. I've gone diving with them, swimming with them, or something like this, So I have a very non-business way of looking at these things. And I've been interviewed a few times from a business perspective, and I don't see myself as a businessman or as if I'm starting some kind of an enterprise or something. I'm just hanging out with people, writing about what I'm passionate about, and because of that, it's working out very well for me. Following my passion rather than following rules for how to make money, So that's advice I give people. But
of course,
I do make the Language Hacking Guide is $67, so I make at least that every day, and then usually per month, usually quite a lot more than just that times 30, because what I would do, which is both, I suppose it is actually a marketing technique, but it's actually a way for me to just improve the guide itself. Is, as I said, it's in over 20 languages. So I have natives translating it, and every about 2 months, I will add more translations and more interesting content to the Language Hacking Guide. So I'll increase the price. It was originally like about $20 or $30 cheaper, but every few months I'll up it by about $10. And because of this, I will say to people, you've got 3 days to buy it before the price increases. And that means I make a huge amount of sales from people who are on the fence. So I made quite a lot from the last one I did because I timed it with the Zen Habits guest post. So that was great because that means that I've got money to invest back into this project. So I'll be attending a few conferences, that kind of thing this year. I'm hoping to actually speak at one conference. They still have to confirm that I'm invited to do that. So it means I can just put it back in and make sure. One thing that I really wanted to do from a financial perspective was just to have money in the bank, because I was just living off my credit card for too long. It wasn't very intelligent. But yeah, I see a lot of people online just saying, I'm making six-figure salaries or whatever it is, and I really don't care about that. I just want to cover my expenses. I'm not driven by money to do this.
Right.
If I've got food on the table, enough money, a couple of hundred in waiting so I can buy my next plane ticket, that's it. I mean, I will not be happier, and this is why I'm not pushing the guide that much, because as I said, I could make the traffic I'm getting about 60 or 70,000 unique visits a month on my site. So I could really go for all of these cheesy techniques, and I can make 10 times as much money as I'm making right now.
Right.
But why would I want to? I mean, if you one better way to make a lot of money is to live a lifestyle that doesn't require that much money. So I live in cheaper countries. I don't drink. I don't own a car, so I don't have to pay insurance and all that kind of stuff. So this means that for me to have an extremely enjoyable lifestyle, I need a lot less money than somebody who wants to buy a yacht and who wants to get every latest Apple product that comes out.
Yep.
I really feel that this question, from a a philosophical standpoint, is quite irrelevant. How much money you make is how much value you get out of the money you make.
That's a great point. And it moves us to the next question of where you came up with the concept of creating a lifestyle that allows you to live the way you do. I mean, it reminds me of an interview I had with Corbett Barr about lifestyle design, but for you personally, was it all learned or simply intuitive?
Well, for me, it's pretty intuitive. I've only really been getting into the travel blogging community. Actually, Corbett. We hung out at Blog World, and I met a bunch of other travel bloggers. We keep in good contact with one another. And a few people have suggested that maybe I've gotten my inspiration not just for traveling but learning languages from someone like Tim Ferriss. Which just isn't. I really respect the guy, but I started traveling 8 years ago, and at the time there were blogging platforms, but that just wasn't something that interested me so much. So it was just natural. I mean, you're in a foreign country and you realize that it's a lot cheaper if you haggle prices in accommodation, and if you eat in particular restaurants or just learn to cook yourself. All of these things are just part of the process for me. I just, as I said, I think it's a different culture. I'm from a medium-sized town in Ireland, and I think a lot of my readers, or maybe some listeners of this, would be from a different kind of environment where, if you're in New York or something, money is your status. That's just from living in the States, I have found a different attitude to money, and for me, it's just not that big a deal. If you have enough to get by, I get pleasure out of other things. But like one of the things I write about a lot on my blog is meeting people, which is why I learn languages. But just a lot of my readers are trying to get over being shy, and I do write about that a lot, and that's how I get enjoyment. You can't really put a price on that, It's just pretty logical that when you move to a different country, it's cheaper, and when you have a different lifestyle, not necessarily by moving, but by changing your lifestyle, your financial pressure goes down dramatically.
Okay.
So, like, I was in debt, but that debt was created by just never saving my money, and my laptop broke, and I needed to buy a new laptop for work and then flights and that kind of thing. But yeah, as I said, I don't really think about money so much. So I I don't really have a great answers to these questions in terms of changing your perspective, since this is just natural to me.
Right. And you mentioned a passion for immersing yourself within, or getting the most out of a country. So what is your number one tip for getting the most out of seeing a country when a person goes overseas for a holiday or an overseas experience?
Well, the problem is, if you go to a country, you would tend to see what other travelers have done there. So people would get things like Lonely Planet guides, or they see if there's some kind of a package deal to bring them to various places. What I do, which is both way cheaper and way more authentic when you're in the country, and more enjoyable in my experience, is by spending all your time with locals. So one resource that helps a lot with this is couch surfing, and I'm sure if you've interviewed other travel bloggers, they would have mentioned that. But not so. Firstly, it saves you heaps of money on accommodation, because you can just stay in the spare bedroom or fold-out couch or something of a local. But even if you're scared about that or something, you can go to the meetings. So when I went to Cebu, for example, I didn't know anybody. And the problem with that is, if you don't know anyone when you arrive, you will tend to just Google, what's the most interesting thing to do and all that kind of stuff. And all of that is biased. I mean, I considered trying to get into SEO on my site, but then I realized it's all even more cheesy than all the other stuff I've seen online. And like SEO, I realize now, in doing my research and reading about how it works, is that so many things that you would look for in Google, and even now being in the travel blogging industry and just realizing how things like Lonely Planet work and so on, these are all biased, and they are not necessarily the best thing for you. So I find that if you just contact locals, so what I did in Cebu, for example, I didn't look at the Lonely Planet. I went to the Couchsurfing group and I partied with them. I went to the big festival with the Cebu Couchsurfers, and they were all locals, and they all told me the best restaurants to eat in, to get good value for money, good place to stay, and I just had a great time. So Couchsurfing for me is pretty much one of the best resources if you're going to a country. You can ask questions on the forum. You can contact people to meet up, even in, just for a coffee. You don't have to stay in their house. But like for me, the biggest resource is people, and there's too much focus in language learning and in everything to find a book or a program or one-click solution or whatever it might be to solve all your problems. And for me, the solution is just getting in touch with another human being, like something I'm not doing myself, but I know Corbett is doing it and a few others to help their blogs grow. Rather than having silly strategies or whatever, they actually have this mastermind meeting where there's, 5 or 6 of them. They have a Skype conference call, and they all bounce ideas off one another and give each other advice and stuff. And this is, using the human resources, talking to people.
Okay.
And every successful story that I've seen in terms of businesses, travel blogging, making money, and all that kind of stuff, it's from people who focus on the human aspect of it. Another blogger I know, Srini, I also met him at, he runs the School of Life. He wanted to get his blog to grow a little bit. He wasn't writing about a particular niche, so it was hard to be recognized. So what he's been doing, which is pretty clever, is he's been focusing on promoting other people's stuff. So he constantly retweets other people's blogs as long as they're relevant and interesting. He's constantly linked to other people. So, trying to focus on other people's benefits rather than your own, and helping other people. I don't really believe in karma. I just think that people feel that you deserve their help as well if you do that, So it does come back to help you in the future. And I've been doing this a lot myself. I've been trying to to get attention to other language bloggers, and I've been, I try to be as helpful as possible in many situations. That's one reason I like Couchsurfing, is because it's all about being helpful. You would host people, and then you can get hosted yourself. And lots of people I've talked to are very successful. You can't really pin down, it's because they used a particular color scheme or theme on their blog or whatever it is. It's because they're nice. It's because they're genuine. They're personable. And this human aspect is something that I think could really help a lot of people if they focus more on it.
That's incredible, and was actually going to be my next question on what you think is the key to gaining the same success you've had comparative to people who continue to struggle, online.
Yeah, because their focus is on something different. I see a lot of people who see themselves as not yet successful because they're looking at their stats. They're looking at their Google Analytics, or their RSS subscriber numbers. And I was prone to this as well, but I made one decision I made, which I think has been really, really helpful to my progress, is back in July, I decided to never ever log into FeedBurner ever again. And I literally, since July, have no idea how many RSS subscriber numbers my site has. I don't have a counter on the site. I just don't care, because it was stressing me out. I kept thinking, I'm almost at 2,000, I'm almost at 3,000. And then you start comparing yourself to other people. Oh, I'm not as good as this guy because he's got 10,000. Someday I'll be as good as him. And it's just completely irrelevant. If all of these things, comparing yourselves to others, I think it's losing focus. But if you focus on what you're doing, the whole content is king has been said to death. It's been said a million times over again. But by focusing on that rather than focusing on numbers, and this is why I think things like conversion rates is pretty silly, because you're just focusing on numbers. You're not focusing on how satisfied people are as they buy your product or whatever it is,
Yeah.
But yeah, the people I've seen who are successful, if I had to say what separates them, it's because of what they're focusing on. They're focusing on their message, I'm focusing on making sure people learn languages easily. If you happen to have a business model, you want to help people start a business, whatever it is, focus on that. Start interviewing people who are into that. Start writing about struggles that you've had, whatever it is. Get into the topic and stop focusing on all these satellite things like having the right plugin or all of these things are irrelevant. When you really think about it,
That's fantastic. And I have one more question for you around your product, the Language Hacking Guide, because I too have a huge passion for learning languages, particularly Chinese. But if you could pull out your number one secret, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this, but your number one secret for the fastest way to learn another language, what would it be?
Yeah, I'm very, very open about this one secret, and I actually say it at the very start of the sales page. I tell people, you don't have to buy my book to find out my secret. I'll tell you right now. Speak the language from day one. The main problem everyone has is that they keep studying it. They keep thinking, I'll buy the right book, I'll find the right course, or maybe I'll wait until I go to the country. They make all of these different ways of procrastinating actually using the language, and it's hard. I'm not telling people my way is the easiest way and the most comfortable way. It's pretty stressful, but if you speak the language from day one, then you will learn it very quickly. So I tell people, if they want to learn whatever it is, if you want to learn Mandarin, you can go to meetup.com and you can find out if there's a Mandarin meeting in your city, or you can go to Couchsurfing and do a search per language, so you don't actually want to stay on someone's couch. You just see, oh, look at that, there's a native Mandarin speaker, and just invite him out for a coffee. Maybe it'll say on his profile he wants to learn about podcasting, so you can talk about that. There's always something you can exchange with people. Do whatever it takes to meet up with a native speaker, or even just another learner. It doesn't have to be native, but another learner, someone you can speak the language with, and speak it. If you know 10 words, use those 10 words, you know? You're never going to feel 100% ready, and this is the problem with major problem I see all over the board is people are waiting until they're ready, and that magic ready day is never going to come because there's always going to be more work to do. So my secret is make the ready day day one, and it's hard, it's frustrating, it's pretty annoying because you can't express yourself as much as you'd like to. It's slow at the start, but by speaking from day one, you've got the right pressure to learn as quickly as you possibly can. So, like, my whole book is about all my strategies for speaking from day one. I do write about them on the blog several times, so people are free to read my content and just get my best tips for free. But like, just finding a native, you don't even need to buy my book. If you hang out with a native for several hours a day, genuinely trying to speak the language with them, you will learn it. It doesn't matter about, memory techniques or whatever course you're using on the side. All of this helps. These are all, contributors. But by being with a human being, genuinely speaking the language, you will learn it. That's my tip.
Thanks for that, Benny. You've effectively obliterated any excuses I had for not learning Mandarin from my Chinese neighbor. So after this call, I'll probably be baking a few pies before going over there to have a completely awkward conversation with my limited vocabulary. Now, for those who are moved to learn more about you and your product, the Language Hacking Guide, where can they go to find out more about you and the product itself? Because from recollection, you are on Facebook and Twitter if people want to connect with you on the social networks, right?
That's right, yeah. Facebook.com/fluent in 3 months, the number 3. And Twitter, Irish Polyglot. So, people, and then there's a contact me form on my website. So, just like you did, people are welcome to contact me and say hello. And I get a lot of emails, but I answer all of them. I have it took me a while to get used to the amount of emails I get, but I've got a good system now to make sure I get through all of them and that everyone gets a reply.
And just on that note, the only reason I'm having this call with you right now is because that same system really does work. It wasn't but a few days ago that I reached out to you and in a very short time received a reply and was able to have you on what turned out to be a fantastic call. So it truly is a testament to your own measure of worth and how you put other people first and are really open to helping them out. I'd even go so far to say that if anybody were to want to reach out to any single person online, your best chance for success would probably be a guy who can speak 8 different languages, because you have 8 chances to get his attention. But again, thank you for a truly eye-opening insight into how you do what you do, and I